Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. So much for the liberal media. Over the weekend, nearly 2 million people took part in worldwide protests against one company, Monsanto, and genetically modified food. Despite demonstrations in over 400 cities in 52 countries, there's hardly a peep about the event in the corporate media. Apparently, a Koch brothers-funded Tea Party march of 300 people is newsworthy, but 2 million protesters, they're not enough to risk upsetting the corporate masters. This is why it's so difficult to change our country. It's bad enough that many of our lawmakers are bought and paid for with big business cash, but the corporate media, the corporate control is unacceptable. And this is exactly why news reporting should be a not-for-profit venture. When news networks are beholden to corporate sponsors, they focus on the stories they think will get the most viewers and avoid reporting on anything that can paint their corporate masters in a negative light. News used to be news and entertainment used to be entertainment. The new system of infotainment ignores stories like the march against Monsanto and focuses instead on anything that includes sex, lies, or scandals. It was news coverage of anti-war protests that helped stop Vietnam. It was unbiased reports of discrimination that helped end segregation and pushed our nation toward equality. The news media covered these stories because they weren't gagged by defense industry advertisers and they weren't competing with entertainment outlets for ratings. If 2 million protesters aren't enough to warrant attention, we could make it 4 million or 8 million or 10 million. As March Against Monsanto organizer Tammy Cannell noted, we will continue until Monsanto complies with consumer demands. In Screwed News, scoot over Arizona because North Carolina wants to be the next state to say, "Your papers, please." The Republican-led state is about to vote on the deceptively named Reclaim NC Act, which would allow police officers to check the immigration status of anyone they think might be in the country illegally. This so-called reasonable suspicion guideline is similar to the one used by law enforcement officers in Arizona, where a court reprimanded Sheriff Joe Arpaio's office for unconstitutionally targeting and detaining Hispanic drivers. The North Carolina bill would take discrimination to an even more extreme level by subjecting all immigrants to fingerprinting, criminal background checks, and the potential to be detained in a federal facility without ever even speaking to a lawyer. As seen in Arizona, this type of legislation leads to racial profiling of Hispanic residents who get harassed by police because of the color of their skin. North Carolina voters must demand that this racist bill does not become reality. In the best of the rest of the news, it looks like the IRS may have justification for scrutinizing some conservative so-called social welfare groups. According to the New York Times, the election activities of several 501c4 groups provided a legitimate basis for flagging them for closer review. In the wake of the IRS so-called scandal, the Times reviewed several of those groups and found they organized political volunteers, distributed campaign pamphlets, and held political rallies leading up to the 2010 and 2012 elections. One group spent $8,000 on radio ads backing a specific congressional candidate in California. Another sent regular emails about the Romney campaign, and another released a fundraising video focused on, quote, the defeat of President Barack Obama, end quote. Donald B. Tobin, a former Justice Department lawyer, said, while some of the IRS questions may have been overbroad, you can look at some of these groups and understand why these questions were being asked. These Tea Party organizations are not social welfare groups and shouldn't be subsidized by you and me and our tax dollars. They are political action committees that are using their nonprofit status as a means to hide their donor lists. There's an easy solution to all of this. Enforce the regulation as was written. If an organization wants to be tax exempt, they must focus exclusively on real social welfare. Only a few years ago, California was faced with a huge budget gap. Today, that state has a budget surplus of over $4 billion. Thanks to tax increases and an improving housing market, California erased its deficit and has moved out of the red. And the big debate now is on what to do with all that extra cash. Some California lawmakers are calling for the money to be stashed in a rainy day fund, and others are asking for important investments to repair the damage done by years of budget cuts and recession. The state has shown how quickly a large budget deficit can turn around, and when those at the top are asked to pay their fair share. And investments in infrastructure, energy, and education could add jobs and more tax dollars to California's economy. This could be the start of long-term growth if the surplus is allocated correctly. If only lawmakers throughout our nation followed California's example, who knows how fast we could fix our national economy. And finally, according to Bob Dole, the Republican National Committee should be closed for repairs. That was the advice from former presidential candidate and former Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole during an appearance on Fox News Sunday. Senator Dole spoke about the ongoing gridlock in the Senate and said, "It seems almost unreal that we can't get together on a budget or legislation. We weren't perfect by a long shot, but at least we got our work done." Back in the day, of course. However, no one on the right seems to have the political know-how or the political capital to lead the party. Chris Wallace asked Senator Dole if he would even fit into today's Republican Party. "I doubt it," Dole said. "Reagan wouldn't have made it. Certainly Nixon wouldn't have made it because we had ideas. We might have made it, but I doubt it." Well said, Senator. We certainly agree about those needed repairs. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, May 28th, 2013. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.